Hey class! Today we'll be going over a couple more massing tricks. Um, we are going to deal with this structure in the middle of the twist, as well as start to really develop some floors, some ramping systems on the middle bridging part, as well as setting up a couple more views to make it a little bit easier to edit. All right, so first things first, the middle of this bridge, the structure, as you can see, and as I pointed out in the last video, it's starting to break through the curtain wall. And actually, after I finished the video from last week, I went in and tried to offset this middle portion to get that structure to fit inside, and I had to offset like 5 feet inside on either side to get it to move in. And so I then thought, why not just fix the structure for this middle portion so that it actually fits? And the way that we can do that to make it fit the twisting geometry better is by adding more divisions inside the structure. So in the actual structure of the museum, man, this takes forever. You can see that the middle portion actually starts to subdivide even further than on the ends. So on the ends, it's subdivided once. On the second level, it's twice, and in the middle, it's actually divided into 4 different segments. And so we can do that in our model to replicate that and get a little bit better of a fit for the structural system onto our mass. So what we're going to do, and I know it's been somewhat difficult for some of you to be able to select the different masses, since we have so many of them. So one thing to remember is if we go into our visibility graphics, we can turn off different work sets. So we're going to work on the structure. So let's turn off the core and the skin, as well as the site. So now we have just the structure left over. And then what I want to do is I want to just select the mass. And just like last time, I'm going to copy it 100 feet one way. That way I know. Oh, and one thing I forgot to do, and this is very important when working with work sets. So this is not going to appear. The reason why it does not appear, I'm going to undo what I just did. The reason why it doesn't appear is because my active work set is building core. I just turned off the building core. So when I copy that new mass over, it's going to paste as a building core element. It's going to be under the work set building core, and so it's not going to be visible. So what I need to do is go down to active work set and switch it to building structure. That way when I copy this mass 100 feet, it will still be visible. All right. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple. In the conceptual massing environment, there are void forms, and I've gone over that a little bit when we were first starting to dive into conceptual massing. But we can use void forms to cut out certain portions of the mass to isolate, either the ends or the middle, depending on what we want to manipulate. So what we will do is on this mass, we will use the void form to basically remove the middle portion. And then in this mass, we're going to do the same thing, but instead of removing the middle portion, we'll remove the ends. And then at the end, we'll bring it back together and therefore have a complete structural system with the ends having a different segment count than the middle. All right, so let's start with the middle. Select the mass, edit in place. All right, so we want to go in, move that over here, grab a rectangle, and then where does it start? All right, so the twist somewhat starts here, I'd say. Yeah, so it starts here and ends here. All right, so before we start editing the mass, we want to delete the divided surfaces that we have currently. All right, that reveals the original mass. And then what we want to do is create just a base rectangle. And this rectangle must be set to a level. And then we'll take one of the base planes. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it just needs to be extended past the mass on either side. And then selecting that rectangle, we'll go up to create form. Instead of solid, we'll select void form and cut those two in half. All right, and then once that is done, we can go in, divide the surface, go in. Where's our Kistefos structure? Oh, we need to change that from. Change that to 18, and that one to 1. Now, as you can see, it still acts like it is one continuous structure. So I'm going to go in and edit the legs of the void form. All you got to do is just click one of the edges, the sliced edges, and then just keep tabbing until you select that void form. And then once it's selected, you can go in, find that surface, and then just edit it so that it is cropping out. Then you need to refresh it. I'm just going to do a triangle bent the base until I get the mass where I want it. So I'm going to actually extend this one out the opposite way. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Remember, we're just getting it as close as we can, not being too specific with it at the moment. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now let's divide the rest of the surfaces, make sure that they are acting the way we want them to be. 18 and 1. 18 and 1. All right. And we will change this from that 0.5 to 1. 0. Oh, doing it again. I'm changing the belt measurement for the the V grid, which is 1, which wouldn't move because it's literally, there is no placement. It's from edge to edge. I need to change the 18 division. And we're just trying to manipulate these so they're as close as possible. So those match up. Okay. All right, so now that we have those placed, we can select the divided surfaces and change it from the triangle bent to the structure that we created last time. And then once again, I'm going to select the mass itself, if I can. There it is. I'm going to select the mass itself and change its visibility. Get an instance parameter so that I can turn it on and off when I'm in the actual Revit model. Okay. Finish that. Huh, that's weird. Go lay down. Get some weird sticking out. I'm going to go in and adjust that void form so it doesn't cut off this side. See if that helps. It's weird that it doesn't show up in the massing environment, but when you finish the mass, it pops up. If I could just delete that. All right, I figured it out. So actually, instead of revealing more of this side of the divided surface, what you need to do is go in and cut into the family a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, go in, actually go a little bit past it on this side. Finish the mass. What that does, it seems to completely erase that family. And I know that right now we're missing this leg as well as this leg, but that's okay because we'll pick that up with the central structural system. So speaking of the central structural system, um, let's go in there. Actually, first let's sync, save our file, make sure we're not losing anything. Ugh. All right, let's go in, edit this mass. Maybe. There we go. All right, so remember, first things first, delete the divided surfaces so that we get our original mass. And then let's go in, and this time, yep, we're on sublevels fine. We're actually going to create two, and we're going to align it somewhat with the structural system on either side. And then select both, create, oops, kidding, select one at a time. Make sure it goes all the way through. Same with this. Right. And that's pretty close. I'm gonna adjust it so that it's pretty spot on. The reason I'm gonna do that is because I believe so when we're cutting a hole or cutting through the middle of one of our masses, it treats the entirety still as one divided surface. So that's when we divided this one, we divided it by 18 again. But when we cut off either end, what it does is it actually treats this as it's basically a new mass. So the ends are actually this edge and this edge. You'll see what I mean when we divide the surface. Go down to, and this time actually what we're going to do is do triangle bent, and then so we can't do 18 like we have been, because if we did 18, it's actually going to divide from this edge to this edge 18 times, because it has nullified these edges as being the end faces. So now these two are the ends. So what we got to do is go back in and divide it a smaller number. We'll get it relatively close to our existing. 8 seems to be good, approximately. And then, I think we'll do 4 divisions. That's what they did before. Kind of just want to see. What different patterns there are. there's anything. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. Well, anyway, let's just do triangle bend. All right. So let's do that with the rest. Divide surface, triangle bent. I kind of want to see. Eight and 4. Eight and 4. All right. So now that we have, it's relatively good. Might reduce this down. Let's try 2 on the shorter ends. All right, let's try 2 on the shorter ends. Seems to be better. Okay. All right. So now, because we chose triangle bent, what we got to do is go in. We're going to finish the mess first and go File, New, Family. Another panel pattern based. All right, and then we got to change the pattern to triangle bent. And then gonna do the same thing that we did for the structure, and just for time's sake, make a circular dimension, radius, and have it go around the entire thing. And then I want to see if I do change it where the, and I'll do it uniformly. Perfect. All right. Create this family, save it under folder you've been using, Kistefos, middle, structure. Yeah, I already created one. Load into project, and then go into the mass and change this to the middle structure. All right, and then do that for the rest of the divided surfaces. And not kidding. Getting a middle one. To finish the math. Go back to our family, create a reference line between these two. Let's find 3 points. Check yes is reference line. To a point on here. Set. Gonna check. I think, yeah, for some reason when it's just straight, it doesn't like to change. Gonna click edit profile. Trying to add these cross members in there. So it adds a dimension in there. That's okay. I kind of like it. All right, it's relatively believable. One thing I will change. Select one of the structures, go in, and change the radius to. Let's change it to 4 inches. 8-inch diameter beam. Oh, lots of thinking. Alright, now we can take this mass. Oh, and I'm going to turn the visibility off on the 1. Of course I had it. Go. Alright, now I'm going to take this, move it back 100 feet. So now I have basically two types of structural systems. Alright, I'm going to sync. Then we're going to create a couple quick floors. And then a couple plan and views around the model. Alright, so now that we have our structural system relatively in place and set, what we want to do is create the floors around it. So we had, and if we go in and turn our core work set on, so we placed our floors, but of course now they're lower than the structure. I'm going to delete this for right now, this second floor, because it's bugging me. We're going to focus on the second floor, or excuse me, the 2 first floors. So now that we have this structure in here, we need to make sure that our finished floor level is above the structure so that people can walk on it without having to step over these gigantic beams. And then we're going to create a ramp system that connects the two floor elevations. So first what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into our section and find our floor, which is that concrete poche. And we're going to just take the move. We're going to move it up till it clears that beam, which looks to be at about 2 feet. Now what we can do, pan over, make sure that none of our structure looks like it collides. And then we're going to do the same thing with our other structure. Take it, move it up until it clears, which also looks like 2 feet. Now, the other way you can do that is you can select the floor and under the properties, just move the height offset from level to 2 feet. And then if we go back into our main view, go in, see that the floor is clearing all the structure. And then the one thing I want to do before we move on is actually edit the floor boundary so that the floor is inboard of the edge beams. And I'm actually going to pull this back so it ends at the end of the structure. Okay. All right. And then, oh, sorry. Then we're going to do that with the other side as well. Now, a couple of you have asked or noticed that sometimes it's not as easy to edit in 3 dimensions. Feel free to go into your floor plans, turn on and off work sets, go into elevations, sections, whatever view you feel most comfortable editing in, and use those techniques. I personally always like to do everything in 3 dimensions because you can actually see in all different perspectives exactly how the changes that you just made look and feel, and the what impact the design decisions you're making are having on the actual structure and the actual building. A lot of times people will only work in one view and they'll be focused in that one view, and then they go out to another elevation view or perspective and just not really be happy with the way it turned out, or just not or screw something up that they didn't see because they're not working in 3 dimensions. All right. I am going to, all right, so now that those are placed, what I'm going to do, since we have such a complex geometry, we both have the walls on either side kind of coming up on either side, as well as we have it sloping up and down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom mass that will act as the ramp floor, because we're going to have custom edges, custom slopes, and I'm also going to use the section box tool. And the way I'm going to do that, so if we go into our first floor plan, we can see the floor that we just edited, and then if we go into 1B, we can see the other floor that we just edited. What I'm going to do, if you go into your 3D view and I'm going to turn on the skin work set because I want to see the outside edges of the entire mass. I'm going to right click on this 3D box in the top right corner. So right click, go down to Orient to View, and then under Floor Plans, I'm going to select one of the first floor plans. What that's going to do is it's going to take the view constraints of that specific view, and you can do this for elevations, you can do it for sections, and it's going to orient the section box in all those different parameters. So it's going to slice the top of it where that floor plan is being sliced, which is 4 feet above the level, as well as it's going to have a view depth, which it looks like ours is 4 feet. And of course you can manipulate this once you have it set, but I like to do that when I'm working in 3 dimensions so I can see exactly where I'm working, see into the building if I'm editing anything in that environment. All right, and now after that I'm going to go in, create a new mass. Actually, no, not a new mass. I'm going to create a new component, a modeled in place component. Call it a floor, give it a floor distinguisher, middle ramp. All right. And then at first, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create an extrusion. I'm going to take one edge of the floor, connect it with the other edge, and then I'm going to go take it and go past each outside edge of the building. And then also, and I'm going to edit the work plane. Yeah. So I had the work plane at, what you undo. I had the work plane at sub level 0. So when I actually created it, it's way lower than my building. I want to change that, set it to one of the first floor plans. Now when I hit check, set above and below. You don't have to go too far. Just have it set. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into one of my section, or my only section view. Actually first, I'm going to go into a first floor plan, and I'm just going to create a reference plane. Anywhere in the center, doesn't matter where, and then just call it a ramp. Doesn't have to be complicated. Now I go into section, create a void extrusion, and then I'm going to pick the reference plane ramp. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the top and the bottom of this mass by creating a void form on top. And a void form on the bottom. I can just offset this by 6 inches. So that it matches the floor thickness. All right, and then one of the lines. Remember, if you ever get this error message, it's going to highlight in orange the element that is causing the issue. And then I just hit OK, go in. Trim extend those 2 lines together since the offset didn't pick that up. And if I go into my 3D view, it's cut out a tiny little bit of that section because our extrusion is only a foot. I'm just going to drag using the directional arrows. All right, and now I have mass. Alright, so now we have the ramp itself going from one side to the other. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the sides off. To do that, we're going to create another void extrusion. We're going to set this just to a level, which it already was. And then one of the nice things about having this 3D section cut is that we get a nice view into where this really complex form is being cut. So we can use that as a guide. When we go in. You know what? It looks like it's only starting to slice in where right there, and that's not that big of a ramp. Let's edit this extrusion. We might have to raise the floor up a little bit. Let's move this up a foot. See where that starts cutting through. That gives us a little bit nicer of a ramp. It's a little restricted down here, but that's okay. Let's bring it up one more time. I'm just editing those extrusions that we had from before. Just moving up the profile lines. Let's just do it 6 inches. Oh, I forgot. Make sure you highlight all of those. Move it up 6 inches. It's not on the bottom. There we go. That's pretty decent. What we could do, now that we have it at a level that we like, let us actually go back into the section. Let's see if we can make this gradual between the two elevations. You know what? Forget it. I'm trying to. I think I want to do is move these two down to the level that we had, and just see where that ends up. Huh, that's not bad. All right, so we have that level connected. Oh God. Sorry. If we go back to the section, all I did was bring these two guys down so that they're even with the level. I was a little hesitant to bring the floor line up that much because it then cut into our structure and it just made it feel, I don't know, unintentional. So one thing we can do, basically just have to bring it over that hump. And then let's ramp up. Let's use an arc. I'm just playing around. completely free form, doesn't have to be specific, doesn't have to be exact. Just needs to somewhat look right. Trim these guys together, and then offset 6 inches to match the floor line. I'm just going to go in and trim and extend, make sure that all those lines are connected. And trim, extend these down. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we have a ramp, a custom ramp going down, connecting both floors. Now what we got to do, we're going to essentially cut the sides and trim these sides so that they follow that profile. Now we needed to get the slope right so that we knew where it was intersecting with the sides of the mass, sides of the walls, so that we could then use those as guides for our void extrusions. Oops. Create void extrusion, and then we're just gonna, just like before, we're just gonna freestyle, starting at the edge of the wall, edge of the floor, excuse me. Bring it up until it starts to curve, and then I'm just going to use arc tools to somewhat closely follow where it is intersecting with the line. And I'm using arc tools, or arc drawing tools, because I could use a spline, but like I've said before, splines and Revit don't mix very well. They don't like each other. And you're just going to get a cleaner, less problematic element if you use arcs. And I'm going to take the corner. I'm going to use this fillet arc to round out these two. If I can, or maybe not. Never mind. I don't know. Let's try it. And if it's not like that. There we go. Alright, and then do the same thing. Oh, sorry. Want to take this out a little bit farther than the mass. Go out, around, back. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So where the floor intersects, the floor corner is, excuse me. And then take it. It's a little hard to read. Follow where it intersects. And then just create some marks every once in a while. Find that corner of the floor. Alright, and then just with the, just as the same as the other side, I'm going to take it out past the edge of the floor. And then I'm just going to hit check. find the up and down arrow. You can also just use the start and end over here. Bring it up, so make sure it's passing through the entire mass. And then hit cut. Select the solid. Select the void form. Now you have a really nice ramping system. Doesn't peek out from underneath, doesn't peek out from the sides. And then what you can do is actually go in, select that mass, go to material, we can just call it, let's call it floor material. I'm going to make it an instance, and then finish model. And then I'm going to go into the floor slab that we had before, go into 6-inch slab. And what I'm going to do is just highlight it, copy it, and then go into the floor that we just created, paste it. Now we have the same floor material for the entire thing. I have some structure peeking through, that's okay. Can actually just go in, grab the floor, just raise it up. Oh, maybe not. Either way. If you want it, you could go back in and just raise that up a little bit more. Add some more profile lines to get the floor to cover up those pieces of structure. But for right now, that's okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off the section box over here under properties. Alright. I have a pretty decent start. Do is I'm going to sync, save my file. Alright, and then I'm going to go in and start setting up some views. So right now I don't have any sheets, so I'm going to go into View, Sheet, and then let's do 11 by 17. Then I'm going to go in Edit Family, and I am going to get rid of all this junk inside. I'm going to save this. That's a new, just 11 by 17 blank. Save it, and then load into the project and close. Alright, and now I have a sheet. C2, can right click, rename, call it A1, and I'll call it floor plans. And then I'm going to change this to the blank. And then go in, and I am going to take level 1B, since that has all the floors. Level 1A cuts in since it's lower. So I'm going to take 1B, drag it in. And it is huge for the sheet. So what I'm going to do, change the scale. Under the View template, Architectural Plan, should be down 1/16. That doesn't work. Alright, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of doing that, I'm going to undo, keep it at an 1/8. I'm going to go in, edit the 11 by 17, make it a 36-inch by 24-inch. Doesn't matter which way you change the dimensions. See if that fits. It does not, but it's close enough. Just make this a weird dimension. Oops. 3.5 by 2.5. by 42. There you go. Fits in nicely. And then let's edit this a little bit. Let's go into our template. Let's go into shadows. Let's turn on both ambient and cast shadows. Let's go to lighting. And let's turn the shadows down to about 15 so that they're not overpowering and distracting. Press OK. Let's see how that looks. Pretty decent. I was hoping the ambient shadows would add a little bit more, but that's okay. Let's actually go in. Let's go to architectural plan. Let's go down. Next to view range, you can include or not include certain elements. So if I uncheck that, that's going to detach the view range from this view template and let it be editable per view. So I can change it to different settings. I'm going to take the top and I'm going to turn it to 15. And I'm going to go in and change this to 7. Just want a little bit more depth. I do and don't like that. I'm going to go back. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's all about testing things out. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And I'm going to bring the north and south. Bring the south elevation on. I think I've covered this before. But if you're dragging views that are of the same size, see that dotted or dashed line that appears in the middle? That means that they're aligned. If they're in the same orientation, that means they're aligned with each other. This still has that drawing. Let's delete that. And it's pinned. Unpin it, delete. Drag it down. And of course, this is the ugly view that has all of the alright. So I was just trying to think of a way. Since this is in the same orientation, it won't align with itself, unfortunately. Just trying to think of a way to do that. Get out of here. There we go. All right, now. Yeah, now it aligns with itself. Awesome. All right, so if you guys just missed that, because I was, of course, editing. All right, so what I'm going to do, I turned on the crop view. And you can adjust it. And then what I did was, if you want to change the orientation of the drawing that you have, what you do is select the view template, which is this bounding box right here. Just have it selected, hit rotate up at the top, and then just rotate it 180 degrees. And now our elevation is aligned with the plan somewhat. There we go. You can turn that crop view off. Of course, that skews our structural grids. Of course, our structural grids are pretty skewed as it is because they don't align with structure right now. Actually, we can go in and just delete those for right now since they're not actually accurate. One thing that's missing from the floor plan is where it gets cut through the site. So if we go in to select the architectural elevation template, go in our work sets, go to site, turn that on. It's okay. Oh, and we need our crop view on. And then turn our post shape for our topography to gray. So change our cut pattern to a solid color, start gray. Of course, it's cutting a little bit farther back. So what we'll do actually is go into elevation. Let's turn model display shaded. Ugh, I hate the grass color right now. Let's change the shaded material to a nice lighter gray, or green, excuse me. Gray-green. Much more neutral. There we go. And then let's turn on some shadows. The same thing that we did before. Go into lighting, turn our shadows down to about 15. Shadow not overpowering. Okay. Looks good. Alright. And then let's turn. Let's leave this elevation on. Wonder if I can change. I never liked the square elevation tags. Let's see. What I did, I selected the square, not the triangle, but the square. That brings up the elevation tag as a whole, and then edit type, and then let's see if I can get a circle. Yeah, so I'm gonna duplicate this, call it half-inch circle. Oh, ha. Just go to the drop down, circle, press OK. Press OK. Go. Oh, it has the name too. That's fancy. I don't know if you guys are very familiar with elevation tags. I've actually never seen the circle with the, yeah, if we just do filled arrow, let's not do view name. Alright, so with elevation tags, what it's going to show, and same thing with sections, it's going to show the sheet name, or the sheet number, excuse me, that elevation is on. So right now it's on A1 because it's on the same sheet, and it's going to have the item, what is it called? The number item that it is on that specific sheet. So if you look at, hi Rayla, if you look at the name of the view on the sheet has a number next to it, that's the number of the view on each sheet. That's how you organize it. Especially when you have a million different details and whatnot, it's much easier to use that number to orient yourself and to identify what that specific tag is referencing. So that specific tag is referencing the item number 2 on sheet A1. So if you go A1 and then find number 2, that's the north elevation. If I went in to change, like you can actually change these numbers. So to do that, you select the view, then go click the number and call it 25, I don't know. Then that will automatically update this number to 25. If you put it on another sheet, it'll automatically update this sheet number to the one that's on. Go lay down. Sorry. Alright, so I'm going to change this back to number 2. And then I'm going to come in. Pull this crop down. Oops. Pull it in a little bit. Sorry, I am a little tired. To edit these view names, it's a little weird. So to move them around, you just select them and move them. But if you want to edit the length of the tail or edit any of the names, what you have to do is first select the view, just click once, and then it'll populate this little blue button that you can click and drag to move. You can also do the other end if you can ever get it to select just that blue button. And then if you also select the view, you can go in and change the name and change the number right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is get, oops. I'm going to take this section. I'm actually going to flip it. It's looking that way. I'm going to move it up a little bit to adjust so that it captures the majority of that ramp. And then I'm going to pull it down. Oops. I'll make sure that you're deselected from the branch. Pull this up a little bit. Make sure all those are aligned. Go into my architectural section template, turn the site on so I can actually see it. Oh, and of course, since I did go in and adjust where the section was taken, it is moved my water. So I need to go in and adjust that. All right. And look at that. Now I have, actually, you know what? Let me flip this. Sorry. So that I can actually see the glazing. But if I flip it, duh. If I flip it, then it's not oriented in the same position. Sorry. All right. So that is a pretty nice sheet layout right now. You have your elevation, plan, section, all laid out, same orientation. They're all aligned. They're all based around one model. We really haven't done any two-dimensional drafting over it except for this little water detail. So what I want you to submit is basically this sheet with an elevation, a floor plan, and a section. To do, you guys know, file, print, use a printer, Bluebeam, whatever. Go in, setup. Make sure that you select the right size. So we created a 30 by 42 inch sheet, which is Arc E. Fit to page, center, since we want it to be at its correct scale. You can always preview to make sure that it's going to look right. Yes, hit print, hit OK, save it. Then submit that as your week's assignment. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week / weekend. Hope you all are safe and healthy. And as always, let me know if you have any questions.